Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayemi. Zevachim Daf Mem Aleph. We begin 7 lines off the top of the Amud, right in the middle of a brisa. The brisa is going to focus on that pasuk. The pasuk in Vayikra, Daled pasuk Chaf. It reads like this. V'asar lapar. So this is within the discussion of the various karbonos, internal carbon chatos. We have the par kohen mashuach. So that's the par that the anointed kohen, the kohen gadol, will bring upon sinning. We have the par he'elim davar shel tzibur, the community at large will bring for transgressing something serious by way of the erroneous verdict of the bezin. So in this pasuk, which actually is addressing the par helem davar shel tzibur, it sort of repeats itself. It says v'asar lapar. You should apply to this par. So what process should be done to this carbon chatas? By the way, these are all internal carbonos chatas, which means that their bloods are applied internally in the mizbeach hapnimi. Some even in the kodesh hakadoshim. So he should do to this par, the par helem davar, kasher also the same that was done to the other one, to the par hachatas, which is referring to the previously discussed par chatas, which is the par kohen mashuach, which seems like a repetition because it already explained in great detail what to do in terms of this one. So why, again, do to this one like you did to the other one? The Gemara explained yesterday, the day before. The point is to emphasize how critical all these details are. You must follow them without omitting anything. So the pasuk continues, Vasal apar kasher asal parachatas ken yaseloi v'chiper alei makoyin v'slach lahem. So yesterday we had a brisa, Talmud Bavli, which analyzes pasuk for us, and on the word lapar, which is a repetition, because we already know that it's a par. Lapar ze par helem davar shel tzibur. Telling you, it's referring to the par helem davar. And the question is, of course, that's the context of our discussion today. The psukim here talk about par helem davar shel tzibur explicitly. So why refer to it again in a sort of hidden way, in a hinting way? Lapar means the par helem davar shel tzibur. Ask the Gemara, what do you mean? Ha b'tzibur begufei ksiv. Well, obviously we're talking about the par helem davar. Why make another reference to the par helem davar? Amar Papa, I'll tell you why. It's not needed for its own sake. You're right. The Torah had already described in great detail what to do by the par helem davar. The point is to enable us to apply some details to a different carbon. The yeseres ushtei akloyos, different parts of the animal that are meant to be burnt on the mizbeach. The Torah spells them out. By which carbon? By the par kohen mashuach, and by extension, by way of comparison, v'asal apar kasher asal apar achatas. We know that everything that happens to the par kohen mashuach happens to the par helem davar. That's not enough, because there's another carbon that we need to apply it to, where it doesn't say that the yeseres and shtei akloyos, yeseres is part of the liver, shtei akloyos are the kidneys, belongs in the mizbeach. How do we know that the soyer of avodah zarah, if the tzibur sinned in avodah zarah, they bring a soyer, how do we know that that applies to that carbon as well? As we're going to see later, we know it by way of a hekesh, a connection. The pasuk elsewhere in Pasha Shlach, in discussing the avodah zarah carbon, compares it to the par helem davar. Whatever applies to par helem davar, i.e., yeseres shtei akloyos on the mizbeach, applies to the soyer of avodah zarah. But the thing is that when it comes to carbonos, we can't make a double import, a double connection. Take an item from point A, bring it to point B, and then shift it over to point C, such as yeseres shtei akloyos, which is originally stated by the par kohen mashuach, and then exported over to the par helem davar by way of a hekesh. We can't take that material and now export it further by way of another connection, another hekesh to the soyer of avodah zarah. So how do we get to our destination? How do we know that in fact yeseres shtei akloyos applies to the Avodah Zarah carbon? The answer is like this. Lapar is a parallel davar shel tzibur. But the Torah going ahead and repeating again, making another reference in this pasuk to parallel davar, which is an unnecessary reference, since that is the context of our discussion. We already know that we're speaking about that carbon. The point is to emphasize and repeat him again, so that this extra mentioning of the parallel davar accomplishes as follows. It accomplishes that whatever halachas we have imported to the parallel davar from the parkoin meshuach, such as Yiseros Hashtei HaKleis going on the Mizbeach, is now not considered like a derivation. It's not considered like an imported item, considered like a local item. And that's the point of repetition. This is parallel davar shel tzibur. This is the package, including Yiseros Hashtei HaKleis. And now, it allows us to export this sort of local item, this Yiseros Hashtei HaKleis, which has now been incorporated into the parallel davar shel tzibur as an original item, as a local item. It can now be exported over to the carbon of Avodah Zarah. Hence we know that by Soyer Avodah Zarah, likewise Yiseros Hashtei HaKleis are put on the Mizbeach. Okay, so the question was, why repeat? This is the purpose. Amar Papa Mishum Deboy, because very soon there's going to be a need, Agmuri, to learn Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur, an element which is related to the parallel davar shel tzibur, i.e., which element? B'yiseros Hashtei HaKleis, those two parts that go on the Mizbeach. We're going to have to take that and export it to the Avodah Zarah carbon. But the issue is, it's a double export. It's a double connection, which you can't do by karbanos. But in reality, this element is not clearly stated by the parallel davar. Rather, by Kesha Asa. He himself acquires it through a hekesh. He brings it in from the Parkai Mashiach. In which case, it wouldn't work now to turn around and export it further. And that's why we need the word lapar in this pasuk. An extra word. An extra reference to parallel davar. What does that accomplish? Let me have it. It now accomplishes as though it's all written within itself, locally, within parallel davar. This is the parallel davar with all its components. It becomes local. It is no longer regarded as imported material, which now allows us to export that local material over to another carbon. It's only considered a single export rather than a double. But in which case we avoid the issue of davar, of an item. Halamad behekesh, which is derived through a hekesh, one connection, chayzer halamad behekesh, to now have to go be exported further through another hekesh. We avoid that issue. We avoid the double hekesh. It's not a double hekesh anymore. It's a single hekesh. Here's the parallel davar shel tzibur. Here he is with all his components, irrespective of where he learned those things from. It's been relabeled, repackaged, so to speak, as parallel davar material, which allows us to now do a single export to the Soyer Avodah Zarah. Tanik Vasid Rav Papa. In fact, we have a riot to Rav Papa that this is the correct pshat. So again, we're back to that pasuk v'asa lapar kasher asa, right? Mata malim lapar. Why the word lapar? It's obviously a par. And the answer is, as we just explained, the Visha Nemar. Because if we go over to Parshas Shlach, the Soyer of Avodah Zarah, where it says, Ve'mevios karboni ishel Hashem. So part of the carbon is, ishel Hashem is burnt on the Mizbeach. Which part? The pasuk continues, V'chatosam lefnei Hashem al shegigosam. Which Rashi says is an extra expression. It's coming to teach us something. Chatasam elu s'irovidis kechavim. The word chatasam is obviously going back on the carbon of Avodah Zarah, which is the topic of discussion there. The word shigigasam, extra expression, a different carbon. Zeh parhalam davar shel tzibur. It's related to the other carbon. What's the point of bringing that in here? into our, discussion. The answer is Chatasam al Shigigasam. The carbon of Avodah Zarah is processed in similar fashion to a carbon called Shigigasam. Rashi explains, which is the parallel davar shel tzibur. Why? As we find over there, V'im kol adas Yisrael yishgu, lashon yishgu was an erroneous sin, a mistaken avera. So Shigigasam is that type of carbon. Why this connection between us and them? Torah is telling us now. Chatasam harei l'chash k'shigigasam. But the same process that applies to Shigigasam, i.e., the Yeseres and Shtei HaKleis burnt on the Mizbeach, likewise to our carbon of Avodah Zarah called Chatas. But the question is, Helam Davar only got it from elsewhere. He can't turn around and export it again. Shigigasam Eichel Lamanta. How did the parallel Davar learn what to put on the Mizbeach? How do you know it? Loi behekesh. Was it not through a hekesh from Parkoi Mashuach? V'chidovar Lamed behekesh. If that's correct, since when can you take an item derived through a hekesh, choyzer u'melamed behekesh, turn around and export it with another hekesh? That's the issue here. Solution is tamlei melapar. That's why in the pasuk over here in Parshas Vayikra Dalet Chav, it says the word lapar, which is extra. Zer parallel davar shel tzibur. To repeat him, to repackage him, it becomes his. Further in the pasuk lapar, the parkei Mashiach. So now we have a full connection in between Helam Davar and Mashiach, which allows us to repackage whatever we learn from Mashiach and make it internal, relabel it as par material. We sort of disregard his point of origin that he came from elsewhere. No, now he's local. Once he's local, you can export it further to the Surah of Avodah Zarah. So now we know that the Yeseres and Shtei HaKleis are put on the Mizbeach by the Surah of Avodah Zarah, just as the parallel davar shel tzibur and just as the Parkei Mashiach. Amamar. So let's go back and just relearn what we just said. Chatasam elu shetzira v'tzkechavim. Chatasam is the Avodah Zarah carbon, and al shigigasam connects them to the parallel davar shel tzibur, which enables us to spread, the information around. Now the question is, back in Parshas Vayikra Dalet, pasuk Chav, in that long pasuk, which is the topic of our discussion the last couple of days, right? V'asal apar chash asal apar achatas, etc., etc. We already said that the word hachatas in that original pasuk, not a Pasha Shlach, which discussed Avodah Zarah, back in Parshas Vayikra Dalet, pasuk Chav, the word hachatas is in fact a reference to Surah Avodah Zarah. So in that pasuk itself, we already accomplished that connection. We have that pair up between Surah Avodah Zarah and the other Kabbalas. So we know that Yeseres and Shtei HaKleis applies all around. Why a new connection over here in Pasha Shlach? Ask the Gemara, typically mikra kama, you can derive the same point from the original pasuk. As we learned, the word hachatas in that pasuk is the rabbis. Guess what? It's coming to include this very carbon. So just as you learn the type of blood applications, you can also learn what to put on the mizbeach, the Yeseres and Shtei HaKleis, from that pasuk. We learned that Surah Avodah Zarah conforms to the process of the other karbanos. Amar Papa Istrich, no, we need a new connection regarding Yeseres and Shtei HaKleis. Why? Perhaps I would think, I would contemplate and say, sure, that pasuk in Parshas Vayikra connects the Surah Avodah Zarah to the other ones, only with respect to hazois, to the blood applications, which are stated in the actual psukim that describe the process of the parallel davar. So very nice. Whatever applies to parallel davar applies to Surah Avodah Zarah. But regarding what material belongs in the mizbeach, like the Yeseres or Shtei HaKleis, like Sivan B'Gufei, which the Torah did not clearly articulate within the discussion of the parallel davar, as we explained, because he learned it from the other carbon, from the Yikayim Mashuach. So maybe that cannot be transferred over to Sarah by the Zara. Emily, perhaps that's not going to transfer. And that's why we require a new connection over here in Pasha Shlach between Sarah by the Zara and Par Helam Davar. Kamashman comes and tells us that whatever applies to Par Helam Davar, including the Mizbeach, materials, applies to Sarah by the Zara. Okay? So in a nutshell, back in Parshas Vayikra, Perek Dalet, Pasuk Chaf, we have the Pasuk V'asa lapar, kasher asa laparachatas, ken yasaloi, etc., etc. According to this version, which is the brisa we had on the Mem Amud Beis, this was the second brisa addressing this, analyzing this pasuk. This was in addition to the first brisa back on the Mem Amud Aleph. But according to the second brisa, the word lapar here is par helam davar shel tzibur. Now, why repeat par helam davar again? In order to consider the material as his, which allows us now to extend it over to Surah Avodah Zarah, but we have the other connection in Pasha Shlach, where we have another connection between Avodah Zarah and Par Helam Davar. So we learn not only the azoyas, the various blood applications apply to Avodah Zarah just as Par Helam, also regarding Mizbeach material such as Yisrael Shtei HaKlayos. Now, we may recall that back on the Mem, Rav Papa told us regarding the Yom Kippur Karbanis that really we already know that the Par and Isar of Yom Kippur, which are also internal Karbanis Chatas, all their blood applications are critical. We have the pasuk of Akila Mechaper, we have Chukah. They're absolutely non-negotiable. Rather, the reason why the pasuk mentioned Par Yom Kippur in the context of this emphasis repetition pasuk was for just a couple of details which were not really explicitly stated by Par Yom Kippur and needs to be learned from the other karbanos. There were three items in total. One called S, regarding the growth on his finger. That's not considered a barrier when he dips his finger into the blood. We have Dam, Badam, the amount, there has to be a proper amount of blood. As soon as he's going to collect the blood, there has to be enough there to dip your finger. And also, Betfila, that he has to actually dip his finger in. So three halachas which we have to learn over to the Par Yom Kippur from the other karbanos. And that's why we have this double mention. That's why the pasuk refers to Par Yom Kippurim, but not regarding the basic requirements that we already know. Amali Rafunu b'der nasna Rav Papa. So he asked a kasha to Rav Papa. Really? Generally, Yom Kippur is addressed. We already know that everything is critical. It's just for these little added details. But we have the brisa back on the Mem Amud Beis, where it says it a bit differently. It says Par Yom Kippurim l'chama shomer b'inyan. Kamar. The brisa clearly says that the reference to the Par Yom Kippurim is in order to learn everything, including the basic facts that the hazois, the various blood applications are critical. He learns everything from the other karbanos. You're telling me it's only for some specifics. So he says Tanai. There are two versions, two Tanai, two brises, in terms of how much you have to learn and how much you don't. We have Tana Devei Rav, the first brise in back of Daf Mem Amud Aleph, which was called Tana Devei Rav. Rashi says a regular brise is called Tana Devei Rav, a brise learned in a base medrash, which only requires some details to be learned. Mar Bihachi only includes some details. Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, the other brise in Daf Mem Amud Beis, which was studied in the base medrash. Rabbi Shmuel, Mar Bihachi doesn't include it this way. According to him, we need to learn everything from this pasuk to teach us that even the blood applications are critical by Yom Kippur as well. Okay. Now, we have another brisa from Rabbi Shmuel, a bit more of a Vagada type of a brisa. Why do we find this discrepancy? If we take a look at the Pesukim, we'll find an interesting contrast between the way the Torah describes the process of the Par Helam Davar, which is a community-oriented carbon, when the whole community sins, versus the Par Kohen Mashuach, which is a local private carbon that a Kohen Gadol brings upon a sinning. Why do we find certain differences in language between the two, even though, in reality, they both pretty much follow the same, process? So why the difference in the way that they're described? Tana Devei Shmuel, Mema Nemru Yoseres Shtei HaKlayos V'Parkoyin Mashiach. Why is it that when it comes to Parkoyin Mashiach, the Torah itemizes the Yoseres and Shtei HaKlayos of that carbon to the Mizbeach, and it's not mentioned, it's totally omitted, it's ignored by the Paralam Davash Tzibur, even though the process in reality is identical, as we just explained. It's on purpose. Mashal Melech Basar V'Dam. Imagine a king, a human king, Shazam al Oyavay. He got upset at his good friend. So when it came to describing his misdeeds, he minimized. He didn't elaborate. He cut short. In order to, keep it sort of under wraps. Umiyat b'sirchayna. He minimized in describing his wrongdoing. Why? Because of his closeness to him. Because of his dearness. Likewise, in terms of paralam davar shel tzibur, which is a community sin, Rashi says that's called oyavoy, where Hashem is beloved. So Hashem minimized discussion, even though technically, in terms of the process, the same exact process applies. So this carbon as the other carbon, the Parkoy Meshuach of a Kohen Gadol. V'tana Deri V'Shmuel. Another difference in the way the Torah presents the two carbonis. Mipnei Ma, why is it so? Nemra Parechas HaKodesh, Parkoy Mashiach. Once again, in terms of where and how you apply the bloods of both karbanos, they're identical. In both karbanos, Mashiach and Helam Davar, the blood is applied on the pareches, on the curtain of the Kodesh HaKadosh. Well, you find a difference in the way the Torah describes the pareches amongst the two karbanos. By Parkoy Mashiach, on account of the Kohen Gadol's sin, the Torah refers to it as the pareches, the holy pareches. Its status remains intact. But it doesn't describe it this way. In the context of the Parhelam Davar Shel Tzibur, over there the Torah switches and calls it Pareches, as Pnei Pareches, and omits the word Kodesh. Why is that? Once again, it's a mashal, analogy, L'melech Basar V'Dam, to a king. A human king, Shesarch al Medina. So the country turned their back on him, rebelled against him. So it depends. To what extent? Im miuta sarcha, if only a minority, a small percentage, soured. Pamalia shalei miskayemas. Rashi explains Pamalia is like his cabinet, his ministers. He maintains good relations with his ministers. It was only it was just a couple of citizens. It wasn't reflective of all the subjects. Imruba sarcha, but if most of the country took a turn away from him, there goes his government. There goes his relationship with his ministers. He's now suspicious of everybody. He doesn't. They lose favor in his eyes. Ein pamali shalei miskayim. His pamali, his government, his entourage, his advisors, they lose favor in his eyes. He no longer retains his relationship with them. Likewise, Kaviyachal over here. If it's only the Kohen Mashuach, who's one man, as special and important as he is, the Kedusha, the Shechina, is retained, is maintained, Pareches HaKodesh. Not so when it's a Tzibur. It now is called Pareches, but the Kedusha, the Shechina, is somewhat affected. It loses its title, HaKodesh. Okay, so let's go back to the Mishnah. So back to the halacha of Pigel. And the Mishnah makes a contrast, a difference between the internal carbon chatas and the external carbon chatas. An external carbon chatas, whose blood is placed on the external mizbeach, there, even though one is required to place 4 portions of blood on all 4 corners, but if only one was done, not the rest, the carbon passes. Likewise, how do we make pigel? Pigel needs to accompany any part which is critical, any part which is called matir. Matir is the avodah regarding the blood, which permits the carbon, which enables the carbon, which activates the carbon, enables it for further consumption to the mizbeach, to the kohanim, to the people, enables the carbon to be eaten. So the machshava of pigul, which where the kohen is expressing his thought, his intention, to have the carbon fed and processed in the wrong time, chus money, that makes it pigul. The carbon is now possible if one eats it. It's chayiv karas. That pigul scheme has to accompany the matter, the part of the process, the avodah which is critical to the success of the carbon. So in terms of the mizbeach, the carbon hachitzin, the chatas hachitzin, even if the pigul was only present during one matana, during one blood application, that's sufficient to make pigul because only one is really critical. Versus the internal carbon chatas, where all four applications are critical. So, in order to generate pigul, a successful pigul, so to speak, the pigul has to accompany, has to be present by all four applications. But suppose he thought pigul during one application and forgot pigul by the rest. There's no pigul. Because pigul has to encompass the entire avodah of the matter, the entire process involving the blood. Whether during Kabbalah, or during Halacha, or during Zrika, what we call the Hazah, the Matanos, the applications of the Mizbeach. So again, the Mishnah says, Lefichach, therefore, since the internal Kol Merchatas requires all four applications, and they're critical, so pigul has to accompany all four applications. But if Nasan Kuln Ketiknan, suppose he applied for 1, 2, 3 application Ketiknan properly, without pigul, and he only introduced pigul at the 4th application, that's not pigul. There's no karas upon eating the carbon. So now we have an interesting Mishnah in Maseches Menachos, again regarding pigul, but not regarding an animal carbon, rather a mincha, flour oil carbon, where the kohen would scoop, he would do a kmitza, scoop out the some of the dough, and burn on the mizbeach. Likewise, he would take a scoop of levaina, a certain amount of incense, and put it on the mizbeach as well. So in a way, there's really a double matter. There are two materials that have to be burnt on the mizbeach, that are hooked on the mizbeach, which are required for the success of this carbon. One is the aktaras hakoymetz, burning of the koymetz in the mizbeach. One is the aktaras levaina. Now suppose pigul only accompanied one of the two. So while he was burning the koymetz, he's thinking pigul, but not during the levaina, or vice versa. What happens? Tanhasam pigul b'koymetz. Pigul was by the koymetz, but not by burning the levaina, or vice versa. Levaina v'lei b'koymetz. He had it during the levaina, but not by the koymetz. Is there a pigul? Rabbi Meir pigul. Sure, pigul v'chayvam kares. It's full pigul with kares. We'll see in a minute why. No, aim by kares. There's no pigul here. Achi yifagel b'chal amater. By the way, the carbon still becomes possible, but according to Rabban, there's no pigul, there's no kares. It doesn't acquire that severe deficiency status of pigul until achi yifagel b'chal amater, until the pigul is present throughout the entire matter. In this case, during the haktorah of the koymetz and the levaina, which are basically two halves of the matter. So Chachamim is pretty clear. There's no pigul until the pigul encompass the entire matter process. But according to Rav Meir, how would you learn Rav Meir's shita? Is it that Rav Meir allows pigul to come about even if the pigul was only present during half the matter? Or Rav Shimon Lakish, no. Don't entertain that in fact Rav Meir holds the kasavar mefaglan b'chatzi matter. Even if the pigul was present during half the matter, while he was processing half of the permitter, during the koymetz, not levaina, etc. That's sufficient to make pigul. No, it's incorrect. Rather, the reason why it's pigul in this case is because he began with pigul. He did the koymetz with pigul. We assume he's just carrying on. In which case, the entire matter was done with a pigul in mind. Allah of my skin was speaking. He he placed the kaimis on his mizbeach with a machshava of pigel. V'alvayna b'shtika, but the second item, the lavayna, he did quietly. Now what's going on through his mind? Says Rameir Kasava, we hold, when he continues, he's doing it with the original mindset. So of course there was pigel throughout. Big chiddush or shlakish. Don't think going to Rameir, half is enough. Even Rameir agrees. Just like the Rabban, you need the entire process with pigel. How do you have it? It's assumed. When you start with pigel, unless you state otherwise, it's assumed. You're just continuing on that mindset. How do I know that's the correct approach to Rameir? That's a huge chiddush. How do we know this is true? Look at our Mishnah. What does it say in our Mishnah? Therefore, nosan kulan ketiknan. So we're speaking about an internal carbon chatas, which requires 4 applications. Right? 1 per corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mishnah says, Im nosan kulan ketiknan. First, second, third, ketiknan was done properly. Now we're assuming ketiknan means properly, without any interfering thoughts. Va'achas. However, the last one, number 4, shloi ketiknan, improperly was done pigel. What does the Mishnah say? Is there a pigel? No. Came too late. Of course, it's possible. There's no karas. Let's infer from here. But suppose, if instead of pigel coming in at number 4, it would have come at number 1 and stopped there. But if number 1 would be improperly, i.e. pigel, and then he just, didn't express himself throughout 2, 3, and 4. Vikulan and the rest ketiknan properly, it is pigel. So if 1 is pigel, even though 2, 3, and 4 were not expressed, it's presumed to be pigel. Now, who's speaking? Who's the author of this halacha? Mani. Ilim Rabban, is it the Rabbanan? Of course not. Ha'amri, they just told us. The Rabbanan just told us in the Mishnah there. If you start and do the kaimitz with pigel, and you were quiet by the lavayna, it's not pigel. They can't do pigel with half the matter. We don't assume anything, we don't. So clearly this Mishnah wouldn't be the Shittas Rabbanan. Ella, the only option is Rameir. Now, once again, we have 2 ways to understand Rameir. Half is enough, or no. You need it all, but it's assumed. Now, if you'll take on the first approach, the original approach, according to Rameir, half is enough. So then, even in the case of the Mishnah where 1, 2, 3 were silent, and pigel came in at number 4, there too we should have pigel, because there was pigel present during part of the matter. Mishnah doesn't say that. Mishnah says there's a huge difference between when 1, 2, 3 were done silently, and number 4 was pigel, in which case it's not pigel, versus when number 1 was pigel, and 2, 3, and 4 were done silently, there it's pigel. What's the difference? Lav mishum the kasar. Apparently, because he holds, you need pigel present, but you don't need it expressed. Presumed is enough. Kalaisa, when he continues, al dasu shanais, he's doing it. He's carrying on the same mindset as the first one. So that proves our point. Amar Shlomo Yitzchak, no, not so quick. No. Perhaps our mission is going like the Rabbanan. When the mission says 1, 2, 3 were done ketiknan, it doesn't mean like you thought properly, kosher wise. Just the opposite. Ketiknan means it was done with a proper pigel in mind. We're talking about pigel today. It was done properly pigel wise. He had a machshava of pigel doing 1, 2, and 3. Umay ketiknan, you know what ketiknan means? Ketiknan lepigel. 1, 2, and 3 were done with pigel in mind. That's all the Mishnah is saying. It still doesn't work, because he didn't do number 4 with pigel. So it's not Rameir speaking, and therefore it wouldn't shed light on the way we understand Rameir's Shita. Ask the Gemara, 1 second. Let's look at the wording of the Mishnah. 1, 2, and 3 ketiknan, and the 4th shaloi ketiknan. But according to this new understanding in the Mishnah, you're learning that 1, 2, and 3 were done properly pigel wise, meaning there was pigel there, and the 4th was just he was just silent. So why is the Mishnah called shaloi ketiknan, which almost sounds like there was something improper there. There was some sort of interfering thought. It was just an absence of. Why are we calling it Shaloi Ketiknan? From the Tani, but the Mishnah, and the wording of the Mishnah, we see Lefichach Ibnasan Kulan Ketiknan, Va'achash Ketiknan, the fourth Shaloi Ketiknan, which you're learning means just he was quiet. Possible with chorus, it's possible without chorus. It doesn't sound like he was just quiet. It sounds like number 4 was problematic. There was something improperly done there. Versus the first 3 which were done properly. So it sounds more like Mechlal, the Tikna, when it says the Tikna on the first 2, 3, the Lechsheruhu was done properly, not improperly, pigel-wise. Lechsheruhu does. Well, yes, as the Gemara Rabbah, I'll tell you what the Mishnah means when it says number 1 was done, number 4 was done Shloi Ketikna. It means to say that he inserted some other interfering thought. So again, 1, 2, and 3 were done Ketikna means pigel. And the fourth, he did, Shalei Kaimai or Shalei Shmai, some sort of other interfering thought which disrupts the pigel. My Shalei Ketikna Chuslam Kaimai. He had a mind, the wrong place. Instead of the wrong time, the wrong place. Rav Ashi Amar, another example, Shalei Shmai was a chatas. He had a mind, the wrong carbon. So that's also an interfering, deficient thought. 1 second, says the Gemara. But let's say, okay, fine, granted. Let's say he would not have had that additional interfering thought. The fourth one was done benignly, without any interfering thoughts. You're implying that it's pigel? Due to the fact that 1, 2, and 3 were done with pigel? Mechlal, you mean to say had he not inserted that new, deficient, interfering thought at number 4 of Chuslam Kaimai or Shalei Shmai, then it would be pigel due to 1, 2, and 3 done with pigel? Well, that's incorrect, because you're telling me according to Rabbanan, it's only going to be pigel if pigel accompanies the entire matir, which it didn't in this case. It's missing number 4. So you're right. Even if it's done benignly, it would not be pigel, because there was no active expression of pigel on all 4. So why did the Mishnah present it this way, which almost sounds otherwise? Why did the Mishnah even insert a problematic thought on number 4, which is really unnecessary to disrupt the pigel process, which in any case wouldn't take off because you're missing that fourth? Putting aside the interfering thought, you're just missing it because it's not actively pigel. The answer is like this. Sometimes the Mishnah would express itself in the latter part of a Mishnah in a similar, it would pattern itself after the wording of the beginning of the Mishnah. So really, this added point is not necessary to the equation. I did the Tana Reisha Pigel v'chayvel Kares, but since in the first part of the Mishnah we discuss a different carbon chatas, an external carbon chatas, where although he's supposed to put 4 matanes on the 4 corners, but there only 1 matana is absolutely critical to the kashrus of the carbon. And likewise, pigel accompanying 1 matana would make it pigel. And the Mishnah there, in order to bring out the point, presented this type of equation. A story where the first one was done with pigel, and the second was done chuslam kaima. What's the halacha in that case? It's pigel. Because once pigel was present by the first matana, which is the critical matana, only one is really critical, and that activates the pigel, and it's too late to come disrupt the pigel. So even though he inserts another machshava, another interfering thought during the second, third, fourth applications, he's thinking shleim kaima, it no longer disrupts the pigel process, which had already been activated and implemented. So in order to bring out that halach, the Mishnah, in fact, included other interfering thoughts to bring out this point, that we disregard them. So basically, on account of that halacha and that equation, further down in the Mishnah, in discussing the other carbon chata, the internal carbon chata, where it's a totally different system, it also included another interfering thought, which really is not necessary to bring out the point there. I did Tana Reisha Pigel v'chayel l'kares, on account of the Reisha, where the Mishnah sought to present in a case where, despite there being an interfering thought, there's still going to be pigel, because the pigel on the first matana is sufficient, and there's kares. Tananami Seifa likewise, and the Seifa as well. The Mishnah presented a similar equation where there is an interfering thought, even though it's not really needed for the halacha. Pasalei bakaris. So Mishnah, has this case where by a carbon chatas apnimi, all four applications are critical. The only way to make pigul is if pigul accompanies all four applications, lacking which there's no pigul. For instance, if there's pigul only by the first, second, and third application, there's no pigul thought by the fourth. It wouldn't be pigul. It's possible in bakaris. The Mishnah threw in okay by the number 4. He thought shleimim coming, but really that's not the pivotal point. Even without that interfering thought, there's no pigul regardless because there was no active pigul during the number 4. So lacking the pigul is what loses the pigul, not necessarily the interfering thought. We just threw it in to match the sequence of the Mishnah. Okay, but in any case, we have this machlokes between Rameh and the Chachamim, starting point of which is the Mishnah and Menachos, by the Kaimitz and Lavaina. Pigul only accompanied the Kaimitz and Lavaina. What happens? Rameh says it's pigul, Chum say it's not pigul. Two ways to learn. Is Rameh activating pigul even with Chatzi Mater, even though the pigul only accompanied half the process? Or all agree, pigul must accompany the entire matter. It's just that when you start with pigul, Rabbi Meir holds, the assumption is that you're just carrying on the same track. In which case pigul, in fact, permeates the entire process. To which the Chacham disagree. Unless you express it, it's not pigul. That's Rish Lakish's opinion. And he learned our Mishnah accordingly. In the first part of our daf, we had a analysis on the pasuk of V'aseh lapar kasher aseh lapar. The word lapar is par helam davar shel tzibur, which seems to be unnecessary. Rather, it's to enable us to learn certain items to a different carbon by turning it local, by making it into the par helam davar shel tzibur package. Now it's sort of local material, which can now be further transferred to the Sarah by the Zara. And now we know that the same items apply all around. Starting from Kohen Mashiach over to Paranov Shel Tzibur and the Sarah by the Zara. All of them have the same type of blood applications, and also in terms of the Yeseres and Shtei HaKloyes on the Mizbeach. We learned the difference between the Tzibur being Chayte, where Hashem minimizes and mitigates it, Ipnei Chibasai versus the Kohen Mashiach. We find the Lashon of Parach HaKodesh by the Mashiach, but not the Tzibur, because when the Tzibur is Seireach, it's most consequential. We concluded with the Machlokes, Rein Rabbanan, regarding how extensive the pigul process has to be. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.